Welcome to BunniPhish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as BunniPhish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Thursday, the 7th of June, 2018. Grab some sticks and string, come sit with me. How are you guys? I've had a really good week. I went on 2 field trips, Monday and Tuesday. They were so fun. We went to the zoo, and I put a whole bunch of zoo pictures on Instagram stories. So that was Monday. And then Tuesday we went to a nature center, and I did not put up pictures of that field trip because we walked on a nature path, and at the zoo I only had 2 kids in my charge, and at the nature center I had 4 kids, and the age difference between 1st grade and 3rd grade is huge for like paying attention. So I just didn't have my phone out. And also Monday it started out chilly, but by the time we got there it was pretty warm. T-shirt was fine. But on Tuesday the high was supposed to be 75 degrees Fahrenheit when I was getting my kids ready for school. So I didn't have any of them bring a hoodie, which was fine. But then the field trip started later. It wasn't one of those field trips that leaves right when the school day starts. So it was still pretty chilly, and I was like, well, maybe I should grab a hoodie. And I just checked the weather just to be safe. The daily high had dropped from 75 to 65, which when a week ago we were at 90 is, I mean, first of all, it's a big drop anyway, but second of all, it was really cold comparatively. So I ran home and grabbed a hoodie for me and Mara, and I should have grabbed extra because a lot of the kids didn't have hoodies. So I ended up giving my hoodie to one of the girls in my group because she was literally shivering. So I was also trying to just conserve warmth and didn't take any pictures. Anyway, those were the high points. There weren't any really low points this week. Yesterday, though, because I did do those 2 field trips 2 days in a row, I spent the day, I cleaned a fair bit because I had been gone for 2 days. So when you have 5 kids living in a house, things get messy even when like people are trying to help and clean up. So I cleaned yesterday, but then I spent a good portion of the afternoon sitting on my couch knitting and recovering from being out in the world for so long. So group things. All the small things knit along is going on, and I have not commented yet in the thread because I've been keeping up on my phone a little bit, but you guys are doing awesome. I will be in there later today since I have the laptop, so when this is exporting and stuff, I'll be looking at that, commenting. So good job, guys. I will be drawing the first prize next week, and I had a prize video in last week's episode, but keep your eyes out because some people have contacted me about other additional prizes. So I will be listing them in the prize thread as they become available. Or not the thread, the prize post. So that's pretty exciting. I'm trying to record my podcast. Did you say no? Did you say the baby cuddles first? Oh, it's okay. Oh. So I gave her a bath this morning because she has skin allergies, and she chewed off all of her butt fur over the winter, and it finally grew back, but now she has a spot where she chewed off her butt fur again. So I had to give her a bath today so she could be fine. Yeah, it's okay. You're just a weird little girl. There's nothing wrong with that. You're a beautiful girl. Yeah. Okay. You get down? Good girl. You go lay down? Good girl, yes, that's my baby. That's my baby girl. Okay. I have a finished object that, of course I did. Oh, knitting group was last week, right? That was after the podcast. So that was kind of interesting. I took this blanket to work on, so this is the wrong side. I still have to weave in the ends. I will do that when I weave in the ends on the other blanket. So I finished it. It's completed. The yarn is Bernat Super Value Big Stripes for the main body. And that's true also of the other design blanket. And then it's a Bernat Saver yarn for the border yarn also. And I don't have the colorway for this written down here. I don't know if it's in show notes. I can't remember. But it is completed. The pattern is out to a test knitter to knit this this version. So there's two versions of this blanket, although I don't know if I want to release them as one pattern or as two separate patterns because the overall effect is pretty different. I haven't decided, but that's a long-term release. I used size 8 knitting needles on that, and since I'm talking about that version, I guess I'll talk about this version. So here's this version, and I love these colors so much more. Let me turn it inside out so I feel comfortable actually showing you the thing, so I don't give away the secrets. But look at these colors. You guys, in the last week, I've knit the second ball completely. Right, I complained so much about that pink blanket, and this blue one, it just like knit itself. So I have attached the border yarn to it, and I have the first setup round done, and I'm working on the second setup round, and then I'll be working on that applied edging. So I'm not going to say this is going to be done next week because the applied edging is fast, but it's not fun. So I don't know about that, but it's kind of hilarious to me that I did this whole second ball in a week. So this is where it was last week, and now it's second ball completely gone. I really, really love these colors though. So, but I'm sure everybody knows that when you're working with yarn that you actually really love versus yarn that you're kind of about, the yarn you love flies off the needles. Of course it does. Wouldn't it be great if it was the other way around though? If the yarn you love took just a little bit longer than the yarn you didn't. So this is also out to test knitters, and both of the test knitters for this one have gotten back to me, and they really, really like it. They've had the pattern way longer than this test knit, though, because this was this one was going sooner. Yes, that's what I mean. I finished the second little half ounce, I think, of Jehovah Jireh fiber. So it's been sitting on the spindle for a few days now, actually, because I just haven't wound it off, and I think I'm going to actually have to attach a leader yarn to this because I still haven't found a hook to replace this. I know I have some somewhere. So I'm going to attach a leader yarn to that, which, if you don't know, a leader yarn is a piece of thread or string that you attach onto my cat is on lockdown still because my dad hasn't been back in over a week to finish the bathroom. So there's an open space that she can get out of through the floor. So she's in lockup and she doesn't like it. That's her telling you all about it. Anyway, a leader is a piece of yarn or string that's already plied, doesn't need anything done to it, that you just tie onto a spindle or a bobbin for a spinning wheel, and you put twist into that first, and then the twist goes up into the fiber. It's something to grab onto the fiber, basically. I don't think that I could start this spindle without a hook without a leader. I can if it has a hook. I just start it without a leader, but I don't think it'll work. I mean, I probably could, it would just take longer. A leader thread would be easier for me. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Probably going to wind this off today, start the third half ounce for this project, and that'll be the third ply, and then that might take me a week to spin because I only do a very little bit at a time on this, and then maybe commence plying next week. I have also been spinning away per my own rules. I've been following them so well. I'm so proud of myself. I have finished the second bobbin of the Apothecary fibers in this gorgeous fox color. I don't know if there's a colorway on the tag. There is a picture up right now that shows you the tags for Apothecary Fabrications and the Phoenix Fiber Co., which is the next merino I am going to spin. And this merino is less fine. It is 18.5 microns. It also does not have a colorway name. So this is what I am going to be spinning next. And you can see the gray is just a little bit darker, but they both have that orangey red to them. So I will be spinning that up next. I'm actually going to start with, this is the part that was split into smaller pieces, and the fiber just wanted to split into 3 small balls and 1 bigger ball. I let the fiber split itself how it wants, so that's fine with me. And then there's 1 big ball, that's the half. I'm going to start with the big ball first, and then go from there. I am going to do about 20 minutes of spinning on that today because I finished the second cake of yarn on this blanket. And then I'm going to add to my things that I can do when I finish. I think when I finish a major checkpoint on any project, then I'll be able to spin on this. This is my reward for doing things. Not that I need a reward for that blanket, but that way I have more opportunities to spin on this, since one of my projects for my rules is gone now. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I talked about it in the vlogs for, I want to say May 29th through 31st. I have also been spinning on my gourmet stash. I finished the spindle that I was working on last week, the spindleful, that last sliver that I was working on. And then I wound it off and I finished plying the rest of the 1 ply thing that I had. So this is what was on the spindle last week, and I'm plying that right now. I think I plied 1/3 to 1/2 of what was on here. So making a pretty good progress. And then all I have is this and the 3 last slivers to spin. So yeah, I've had that spindle cleared off for almost a week now, and I just haven't started actually spinning again, probably because 2 field trips. So I have also started, just making sure I have everything. Okay. I have also started the sock. I started it Sunday night, I think, so that I could have it on the field trip on Monday. I know I had the toe done, and maybe I started it on Saturday. I did the toe and a couple of rounds into the sock, and then I put it aside because I wanted it to be field trip knitting. And then I knit the entire foot at the zoo, and came home, put in the heel overnight, and then took the leg to the field trip. And I knit I think I knit up to this entire green stripe on the field trip on Tuesday. And then I've put in just a little bit. This is kind of my travel project when I'm going to the store, you know, when you have to wait and check out lines and stuff. So these 3 stripes. So this yarn is yarn that I dyed myself, and there's a hair in it because my hair gets into everything. Doesn't matter how many times I sweep and brush my hair and stuff, it's just my hair gets into everything that I knit. So anyway, this is yarn that I dyed myself a long time ago using Kool-Aid and food dyes. So I know that the color is not going to stay like this for forever, you know, depending on how frequently I wash them. But I love these colors so much. There is the green, orange, and purple, lighter purple, are all Kool-Aid. and then the darker purple is a Wilton's black food dye, and then the heel is Premier Serenity sock in black, because I didn't want to, I wanted the toe and heel to kind of match. And when I dyed this, I did dye a pretty significant portion with just this toe color. Not too much, actually. I only had about, I started knitting the toe, I knit the toe, and then I only had probably 2 or 3 yards left extra of the toe yarn, which was a pretty good guess for me for not measuring how much yarn I used in a toe before I dyed it. But I did not dye a coordinating heel toe cuff skein, so I went with this black. And I might do a black cuff, or I might just keep it in this yarn. I am not following a pattern per se, but I know there's a pattern like this on Ravelry. Some version of vanilla sock, vanilla bean, vanilla latte, something like that. When the yarn changes, I knit 2 together, yarn over to the end, and then when I get back to the top of the sock or the front of the leg, I do knit 2 together, yarn over until I reach that stitch where it started. And sometimes the color change happens on the back of the foot, so I just do across the entire top like that. But frequently the yarn changes, you know, a third of the way through, or 4 stitches from the end, and so then I just do those stitches and go to the front. I also make sure to count before I start doing knit 2 together as yarn overs, so that it's always an even number of stitches between my first, or between the end and the first pattern stitch, so that I make sure to end on the right spot. One time I miscounted, and so I wasn't able to do that. I had an extra stitch at the end. So I decided to wing it, but most of the time I'm usually pretty good about paying attention. I was on the bus during that point and talking to another parent or a child, and the color change happened right in the middle of the top of the foot, so it wasn't difficult, but it wasn't particularly easy to count from either end. Not a big deal. It doesn't matter. These socks are going to be for me. I haven't decided if I want to make them very long or just like a 6-inch leg. I am kind of leaning towards really long, but I don't know. I did dye 2 50-gram balls of yarn, so I have quite a bit of this yarn left right now. But then I have to worry about not so much shaping, but like kind of shaping. I'll have to throw some ribbing on the back of the sock to make sure it stays up, and I don't know. I haven't decided. I have to decide soon though, because it's getting pretty close to the time where I would want to start throwing in ribbing. For my socks, I usually like to start ribbing when I get to the same length as the toe, which is where I am. So I don't know. I'll have to think about this later. It won't hurt it to be a few extra rounds long if I decide to make it the shorter version of the long socks. I used, for dyeing purposes, I used Premier Yarn's Serenity sock in the soft white color. I have 5 skeins of this right now, actually, because I am planning for this summer to wind all of this into 2-yard hanks, all 5 of them, and let each of the kids dye their own yarn for me to knit them Christmas socks. Because in the past, so I didn't make them any socks this last Christmas, and they've all been like, oh, I miss the Christmas socks. So I guess I'll knit them socks this year, but I'm going to let them all dye their own yarn for it. I think that'll be a fun thing. We're going to do it outside, solar dyeing with Kool-Aid and maybe other food dyes. I haven't decided yet. So that is another thing that I meant to talk about last week in my June plans. I would like to get that done. We won't be doing it until July, but I would like to do the prep now, the winding part, because that part's really boring for me. I have also worked on my draft excluder, which is right here, and the H is on. Is it on all the way? Oh no, there's this little tiny gap, about 2 inches across the top, so that will be finished today, and then the H will be finished. The heart/O is completely on, so next I'm going to be moving on to the M. I have not cut a new E, but maybe I'll do that today, maybe not. Maybe I'll wait until I finish sewing on the M. It's hard to tell. And so that's going pretty well. I have knit a little bit on the mini stockings, but not even around a day because field trips, and I just haven't. So that leaves me with, I worked on my needle point also, but like maybe 1 strand this past week. I also worked a lot on my chunky miter. So I'm going to pop in a video here. So here is my chunky mitered blanket. It's getting pretty big. This is the square I'm currently working on. I'll finish it shortly. And there we go. And Molly's waiting very patiently to be able to sit and eat her treat on the love seat, but she knows she can't lay on crochet and knitted blankets. Hey guys, this is Heather from the future. I finished recording, started editing, and realized I had forgotten a project as I was going through pictures to send to import. So I have one other work in progress. It is the Walk the Block MKAL by Risa Knits, and I was talking about maybe doing it last week, and then Haley gifted me the pattern, so I had to do it. I will be using mini skeins from Penguin Soup and Another Crafty Girl, which I don't have over here. I just ran and grabbed the project, and I'm going to show the project. I clue 2 drops tomorrow. I have just barely scratched the surface on clue 1, so it's not really going to spoil anything, but just in case you don't want to see anything about it at all, I'm giving you a heads up. Skip ahead probably 2 minutes and you should be fine. So I'm making changes to the pattern. First of all, let's talk about that. You know what, we'll talk about that at the end just in case 2 minutes of showing happens. So let me go ahead and show you. I cast on, and you go immediately into short rows. So I have done the first few short rows. It's knit and garter, and the first mini skein that I'm using is Penguin Soup in I think this is the Avada Kedavra. I totally butchered that. It's a Harry Potter colorway. And full disclosure, I really, really liked the Harry Potter books when I read them as they came out. So the last time I've read a Harry Potter book was when I was still in college. So that was a long time ago. That was 10 years ago that I graduated. And I think I've seen all of the Harry Potter movies now, but I've seen all of them once and maybe a couple of them 2 or 3 times. I really liked Harry Potter, but I'm not a huge hardcore fan. So I'm really sorry that I butchered the name of this. Go ahead and feel free to comment and show your, I don't know, frustration or whatever that I don't know about Harry Potter. I know that it's a really popular fandom. It's just not one that I'm really interested in. Although I am planning on reading those books with Gabriel starting this summer. So he will be gone. My kids will be with their dad the second half of June, and school goes through the first half of June. So in July, I would like to read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone with Gabriel. But here's my yarn, and now I'll talk about yarn and things. I am using mini skeins from Penguin Soup, which are 25 gram mini skeins. The pattern calls for 20 gram mini skeins. So I'm using those. And then the other mini skeins that I'm using, it calls for 12, and I do have 12 mini skeins, but 7 of those mini skeins, 5 of them are this 25 gram. 7 of them are 10 gram mini skeins. So that should be interesting. In the pattern intro, it tells you that you use 3 20 gram mini skeins a week. So I've already looked at this week's clue, what people finished before I started. And, but even just reading the instructions, I would have realized that there is kind of a main color for clue 1 and then 2 background colors for clue 1. So I am using this as my main color because it's the 25 grams. And then I'm using the 2 10 grams for the background colors. And I'm hoping that's enough to squeak by. If not, I will either pull from minis or alter the pattern, which you know I do. Another change that I'm making though is the pattern says to be knit on a size 5 needle. And I went down to a size 3. So that's 0.5 millimeter difference in circumference, which I'm hoping will let my yarn stretch a little more. I don't necessarily need a super long scarf shawl thing, and the pattern calls for over 1,000 yards. So I don't have that much yarn pulled right now, although I have a huge mini collection. So if I need to find something that will fit, I'm sure I can find something in my collection. But size 3 should make it so I'm using less, and also those sections are smaller, so hopefully I'll be able to squeak it out. And if I have to omit a row here or there, I will, and if that affects the pattern later on, I will figure out my own math and, and do it like that. You know, I'm not afraid of modifying patterns. But anything that I do change, I will, of course, let you know. So far, clue 1 is very reminiscent for me of like Scarfy Shenanigans or something like that Josh Ricks has done. Very graphic, playing with shapes a little bit. So it should be pretty cool when it is completed. And next week, I should be much further along in this. I only started this, I picked out the yarns for it a few nights ago, but I think I only really cast on that night, but I really only worked on it just a little bit yesterday. I do want to get this blanket finished first, and then this will be my next focus project, because that's usually how I work, is I have a focus project, and then as I finish that focus project, I bring in a new one for the month, for the rest of the month. Okay, back to Heather of the past. And then the last thing for this week is a check-in about my bias stripe blanket, which I have not worked on very much since I showed it to you 9 episodes ago. It's a little sad for it, but you know, this is the month of, or the 2 months of going through a whole bunch of mini skein stash, and I have a quite big chunk that is reserved for my bias stripe blanket. It has to go in the bias stripe blanket first. I hope to be working through that soon so that I can start using those scraps for my other blankets, and it will get more than, I don't know, 5 inches of work done on it. It's really pretty. It's just, I don't know, I don't necessarily think about putting things in here because this is specifically for yarns that I really, really love. My other blankets, almost any yarn goes in those within the parameters, but this one is just yarns that I really, really love the colors of, because sometimes I don't knit with yarn that I love. I knit with yarn that's okay, which is perfectly acceptable. There was something that popped into my head when I was talking about this that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, let me talk to you about recording a little bit since this is a shorter episode. next week is the final week of school, so I should have a normal episode then. But then I am not sure how recording is going to go. I'm hoping that a friend of mine gave me a desktop that I am hoping will work for recording purposes, so that I don't have to rely on my nephew's laptop. But I haven't set it up. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know if it works. And I have to get a webcam or see if I can find my old one or something. And I'll probably still keep to Thursdays because that's when the least amount of children are here, and my children are at the age where I can be like, go take your tablet and go play a game or watch something for X amount of time, and they will. So that should be okay, but it's really kind of dependent on this computer working because I only have access to this laptop when my nephew's home. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping to keep up with the monthly recording schedule, but I don't know. We'll see how summer goes. I know summer goes light for a lot of podcasts because people have children or go on vacations and things like that. But I like to watch podcasts still during the summer months. And I know other people do, so I'm going to try to keep this as regular as possible. Either way, I will be checking in with the knit-alongs, and worst case scenario, I can just do a YouTube live video if I have to. I haven't done one, so it'll probably be a hot mess, but I can do one if I have to from my phone. All right, I think that is everything. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. Again, please let me know what you were working on. I really enjoyed hearing from you all last week, and I've enjoyed seeing what you're working on in the Small Things Knit Along thread. So feel free to post in there if you are front loading your needles for the shorties knit along, the summer shorties, which I will talk about in length next week. But I will just mention here we're doing a summer shorties knit along with short socks from June 15th through August 15th. If you want to front load your needles though and cast some shorties on, as long as you don't knit more than 50%. So if you get to the 49% mark, stop there for your sock. But each single sock counts. So if you want to front load those needles in this next week so that it's easy to get entries into that. I do not have prizes picked yet or donated for that yet, but I will start thinking about things in the next week. I do have kind of an idea that I think would be a fun midpoint prize. So I'll get back to you on that next week. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will see you next week. Bye.